I've started writing this 3 times and deleted it every time because I kept making it sound like something it isn't, like a cautionary tale with a neat shape to it. So I'm going to try to just write it the way it actually happened. And if it comes out messy and inconclusive, that's probably more accurate anyway. My name's Alex, 28 years old, Columbus, Ohio, tech support at a small IT company, a 1-bedroom on the north side, a used 2016 Honda Civic, a life that was fine by any reasonable measure and quietly boring in a way I'd stopped admitting to myself. That's the setup. That's where it started. It was a Sunday night in October. The show I'd been watching had ended on a cliffhanger. The next episode wasn't out for a week. The pizza was gone, it was raining. The particular kind of boredom where there's genuinely nothing wrong, but you can't sit still. I was scrolling r/Wall Street Bets. I don't trade, I just found the disaster content weirdly comforting. People blowing up their accounts and posting about it like it was funny. I wasn't going to participate, just watch. And there was this post, not at the top, not trending, just sitting in the middle of the feed with an unremarkable title, "I Don't Make Mistakes, a trading journal that will make you uncomfortable." I almost kept scrolling, I really did, but make you uncomfortable caught something in me. The boredom maybe, or something else, and I clicked. The author called himself Marcus. No photo, no details. Marcus. He wrote like someone who'd gotten tired of performing confidence, calm, direct, almost dry. The first few paragraphs were standard background, the usual disclaimer about how nothing here was financial advice. Then, "I don't make mistakes. I want to be very clear about that, not because I'm arrogant, but because I've found something that eliminates the variable of human error from the equation." My first reaction was, okay, here we go. Wall Street Bets was full of these posts. People show up with their foolproof systems, blow everything up, vanish. But Marcus didn't write like a braggart. He never mentioned money, not once. No dollar amounts, no screenshots, no profit graphs, just trades, dates, tickers, entry and exit points, detailed descriptions with explanations of his reasoning. And the comments were cross-checking everything, thousands of them. People going back through historical data confirming the trades had happened exactly as described, every single one profitable. I'd been reading for over an hour when I caught something. The last trade I'd gotten to before my eyes started going. A Tesla TSLA Paul $240 strike expiring in 3 days. Marcus had written about it roughly a week before the post went up, and based on something I'd half noticed in the financial news, that trade was currently in progress. I went to bed, lay there in the dark. I didn't sleep. In the morning, I opened my Robinhood account. I'd made one 4 years ago during the GameStop thing. Put in $500, bought a few stocks, realized I had no idea what I was doing, and left the remaining $420 just sitting there, gathering nothing. TSLA, $240 strike, expiring Friday. It was Monday. The contract was around $1.80 per share, 100 shares per contract, so $180 for one lot. I thought about it for maybe 30 seconds and bought one. I want to be honest here. I knew it was stupid. Half my account on one options contract because a stranger on Reddit had written about it. I told myself I was just testing. On Wednesday, Tesla released delivery numbers. Better than expected. Stock jumped 7% in under an hour. By close on Friday, my contract was worth $11.40. $180 into $960. I stared at that for a while. Then I went back to the post and kept reading. The next trade was an Amazon put, $178 strike, 2 weeks out. Marcus wrote that Amazon would disappoint on AWS growth guidance at their upcoming earnings call. Not might disappoint, not could. He wrote, Amazon will disappoint on AWS guidance. This is not speculation. He'd written that 3 weeks before the call. I bought 2 put contracts, $340. 9 days later, Amazon dropped 6%. AWS missed. My contracts came back
$2,200. I sat in my apartment and tried to think about this clearly. Insider trading kept coming to mind, but the post was public. Anyone could read it. If this were actual insider information, the SEC would have been on it immediately. And the Reddit community had been verifying dates obsessively, archiving sections, proving the trades had been documented before the events. One commenter had written, "I've been following Marcus for 4 months. Every single trade has hit. I don't know how, but it's real." Another replied, "That's not possible. Nobody has a 100% win rate over 4 months." The first person just wrote, "I know." I closed the laptop. I needed to think. I already knew I was going to make the next trade. By the end of November, I had $14,700. I'd started with $420. I'm not going to dress this up. I was not thinking about much else. My head was somewhere else entirely at work. My manager Jason asked me twice if everything was okay. I told him everything was great. At night, I read the post. It was long, genuinely long. Every time I thought I was near the end, another section appeared. Marcus documented each trade with explanations and with something harder to categorize, notes about what he was thinking and feeling, small details woven between the financial stuff, weather, delivery orders, what was on TV, things that didn't seem to have anything to do with trading. One line somewhere in the middle, "The market is a mirror. It reflects not what is, but what will be. Most people look at the reflection and see the present. I look at it and see the future. The difference is not intelligence. The difference is patience." I'm aware that reads like fortune cookie stuff, but the trades kept working, and at some point your skepticism starts to feel like it's costing you money. 6th trade, Microsoft call, plus $3,400. 7th, SPY put, ahead of a Fed meeting, plus $1,800. 8th, NVIDIA, plus $7,200. The NVIDIA one, I stayed up all night watching it move in real time. Not because I was scared, I was too wired to sleep. Something in me just sang watching the number go up. Every 20 minutes, refresh, up again. I know what that feeling is now. I didn't think carefully about it then. I just kept reading the next line.
December. I stopped pretending to work at work. Bought earbuds, sat at my company computer, read the post through a VPN while taking calls. Jason came to my desk, more serious this time. "Alex, I need to know, are you all right? You've been somewhere else lately." "Everything's fine, personal stuff." He looked at me for a few seconds and walked away. And it was that day, sitting at my corporate desk, earbuds in, $38,000 in my brokerage account, that I first noticed the other thing in the text. Marcus had written, somewhere in a section I'd skimmed, something like, "By the time you read this section, you will have already made at least 8 trades following my journal, and you will be significantly in profit." I stopped, read it again. "By the time you read this section, you will have already made at least 8 trades following my journal, and you will be significantly in profit." I had made 11. I was reading a section clearly later in the chronology, and Marcus was writing as if he knew exactly where in the sequence I'd be. I convinced myself it was just the logical estimate. People who'd gotten this far had probably been making trades along the way. 8 was a rough guess. I convinced myself of that, went home, didn't sleep. The next morning, I went back and started looking for other sentences like it. There were several. Here's where it gets harder to write without sounding like I'm dramatizing it, so I'll just describe what I found. Scattered through the text, between trade descriptions, were fragments where Marcus shifted from I to he.
addressed not to a general reader,
Jason
but
Minor.
apparently to a specific
Decision
person.
to quit is final.
He came to this journal the way most people come to it, through accident, through boredom, through a night when there was nothing else. Fine, vague enough to apply to most people. He had a job he didn't care about, a routine he had stopped questioning. Also vague, he started with a small amount, less than $500. He made the first trade almost as a joke. I'd started with $420. I'd made the first trade almost as a test, which I'd been calling almost as a joke in my head. By the time he realized what was happening, he had already stopped being himself. I sat there looking at that sentence for a while. Then I went through the comments and found a user, u/Brennan_R, who had written, "I followed this journal for 6 weeks. The trades worked every time. And then I found something in the text that made me close my account and never come back. I'm not going to say what, but if you're reading this, you already know what I mean." The date on the comment was September 14th. The post had been published October 12th. That's a comment posted 2 months before the post existed. I took a screenshot, checked 3 more times. September 14th, post from October 12th. I tried to visit the account. User not found. Deleted. I found 3 more comments with timestamps that predated the post's publication. All 3 account profiles were gone. All 3 comments said roughly the same thing. I followed it, it worked, I found something, I left. None of them described what they found. I didn't sleep for 2 days after this. Not well, anyway. I kept going back and rereading sections, looking for whatever they'd found, trying to figure out how a comment could be timestamped before the post it was responding to. My brain was producing explanations as fast as I could generate questions. Reddit displays the wrong time zone. It was a bug. Marcus ran multiple accounts, posted in the comments first, then published the main post. All of these are technically possible. None of them satisfied me. I kept reading. I put in my 2 weeks notice at some point. Jason offered me time off, then a raise. I thanked him, said the decision was made. Alex, I don't know what you're doing, but be careful. I'm fine, Jason. Are you sleeping? Your eyes look... I'm fine. I was out by the end of that day. Looking back, I understand I'd cut off most of the feedback loops that would have told me something was wrong. I'd stopped going to the weekly bar thing with Derek and Chris. Wasn't responding to texts. My mom had sent a couple of messages I kept meaning to answer. I just didn't have time, or didn't feel like it. At the time, it didn't register as a problem. That's the part that still bothers me when I think about it. Not the trades, the fact that I was gone for months and barely noticed. And then I reached a section Marcus had titled The Shift. At some point, and every reader of this journal who has made it this far will know exactly what I mean, the trades stop feeling like trades. They start feeling like something else. Like you're not making decisions. Like the decisions are being made for you, and you're just reading the script. I was doing exactly that. I'd stopped asking, should I do this, at some point. I just read the line, opened the app, pressed the buttons. This is the moment I need you to stop and ask yourself a question. Am I following the journal, or is the journal following me? I paused on that, turned it over. A text file can't follow anyone. It's static. It doesn't change. The question was formally meaningless. But I kept thinking about it. And then the next section was dated January 14th. I checked the post's publication date, October. All previous sections were dated September through December. The next section was dated tomorrow. I told myself, typo, mixed up the date. I checked whether the post was edited. You can see that flag on Reddit. No edits. The post was created in October and hadn't been touched. The section dated January 14th opened, "Today I made the most important trade of the entire journal." Tomorrow. Marcus had written about tomorrow in a post from 3 months ago. I closed the laptop, walked around my apartment, drank water, sat back down. At the end of that section, a trade. NVDA calls, strike $140, expiration that Friday. Entry at market open, January 14th. And then my phone buzzed. A brokerage notification I hadn't set up. NVDA pre-market activity. Unusual options volume detected. I stared at that notification for a long time. I don't know how long. I didn't sleep that night. The fear was different from before. Before, I'd been too excited to sleep. This was something else. I still don't have a good word for it. 9:29 the next morning, 1 minute before open. I was on Robinhood. NVBA call, $140 strike, Friday expiration. I thought, don't. Something is wrong here. A post can't know the future. 9:30. I bought 50 contracts. $50,000. Almost everything. My hand didn't shake. I just pressed the button. On Friday, NVIDIA announced a partnership with Microsoft on AI chips. The stock went up 11% in 1 day. My contracts came back $214,000. I sat in my apartment and the coffee next to me got cold, and I didn't feel anything like joy. I felt scared in a way I hadn't felt during any of the previous trades, because now the only explanation I had left was the one that didn't make sense. I spent 3 days trying to find a rational explanation. Googled everything. Went back through all 3,000 odd comments looking for people who'd had the same experience. Found u/Brennan McGarren. Found the impossible dates again. Found 3 other posts across other subreddits. An OSINT specialist I eventually hired tracked them down. With the same basic structure. A different domain each time. One about a man who never makes mistakes in relationships. One about a life coach. One about a gamer. Same architecture, verified results, second-person address. A final section telling the reader to stop. Different names at the end. Jake, Ryan, Sarah. The freelancer's note, whoever's doing this has been doing it for at least 3 years. Same template, different domains, always ends the same way. I've seen similar structures in high control group recruitment materials. Not saying that's what this is, but the pattern is familiar. I thought about that. I sat with the word cult for a while and tried to figure out why it didn't quite fit, and also why it didn't quite not fit. A cult operates through isolation and exclusive dependence on a single source of authority, gradually escalating stakes, the feeling of being specially chosen. All of that had been in the journal. I'd just been too deep in it to see it from outside. But the thing I kept getting stuck on, for what? I hadn't lost money. I hadn't given anyone my personal information. I hadn't joined anything. I just read a post and made trades that worked. I still don't have an answer to that. Maybe there isn't one that makes sense. Maybe the purpose was something I never got far enough in to see. This is the part of the story where I'm supposed to explain why I was susceptible. I thought about this a lot, and I keep resisting the urge to make it too neat, to list out the psychological mechanisms in a way that makes it sound like something that would only happen to someone who ticked certain boxes. Because that's the thing about it. You read about this kind of thing from the outside, and you think, obviously I would see that. Obviously I would stop. The honest answer is that I was bored and dissatisfied in a way I'd stopped admitting. And then something came along that offered excitement and purpose, and the particular relief of feeling like someone else understood the shape of things. That's not a personality defect. That's just
being human in a certain mood. And the first trade worked. That's the one I keep coming back to. If the first trade had failed, I would have closed the tab and never thought about it again. But it worked, and after that, I was invested. And after that, every rational objection I generated also generated a counter-argument. And I am apparently capable of doing that for quite a long time.
I found the final section on January 18th, a section Marcus had dated in a post from October for that exact day. I'll quote it because I still think about it. January 18th. By now he has found all the pieces. He has read the descriptions of himself. He has noticed the dates. He has tried to explain it away, and some part of him still is. Today he is sitting at his desk, or at a table, it depends, with a cup of coffee. He is about to read this section for the first time. He is afraid. Good, he should be. Not because of what I've done, but because of what he's about to do. Today's trade is different from all the others. It isn't about profit. Every trade up to this point has been preparation, building capital, building confidence, building the willingness to follow without questioning. Today, I'm going to give him a trade that will lose everything. Not because I want to hurt him, but because the trade itself is the point. The loss is the point. Today's trade, TSLA puts, strike $180, expiration tomorrow. He needs to make this trade. He knows he does. He has followed every other instruction. He is wondering right now if this is a trap. It is not a trap. Or rather, it is a trap, but not the kind he imagines. Make the trade, Alex. Alex. My name. In a post written in October. I sat there with my hands flat on the desk. I want to be accurate about this. I was not calm. Something in my chest was doing something I don't have a good description for. The coffee was steaming to my right, January light through the window. The one thing I kept turning over, how does he know my name? I want to be honest about what happened next, because this is the part where I made the only actual correct decision in the whole story. I didn't make the trade. I closed Robinhood, got up, left the apartment, drove for an hour with no destination, and ended up at a gas station off Route 161, where I bought terrible coffee from a machine and stood outside in the cold watching cars go by on the highway. I thought about it from the outside for the first time in months, not from inside the journal, from outside. The rational explanations for Marcus knowing my name, Alex is a common name. Maybe he wrote several versions of the ending. Maybe I was projecting myself onto a name that happened to fit. The rational explanations for the impossible comment timestamps, a bug, a time zone error, a technical exploit. The rational explanation for the whole thing, coordinated buying. Enough people following the same trade simultaneously could move options prices on thinly traded contracts, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. Any one of these individually holds together. Taken all at once, I don't know. I drove back, read the final section, the one labeled the end, no date. I am not predicting the future. I am describing the present, my present. I am you, or rather, I am a version of you, a version that already went through everything you are currently experiencing, a version that made the final trade, a version that learned what comes after. The last trade is not about money. The last trade is close the account, withdraw everything, call someone you haven't spoken to in months, go outside, eat something, sleep. The journal ends here because there are no more trades. It ends here because the next section is yours to write. The market doesn't know your name, Alex, but you know yours. That's enough. Stop reading. McCarthy. I finished it. Sat there. Outside, snow falling, first real snow of January. I opened Robinhood and hit withdraw all funds. $296,000 transferred to my bank account. Then I closed the laptop.
I picked up my phone. Derek had texted 2 weeks ago. "All right, man? You good? Haven't seen you at the ball." Chris, 3 weeks back. "Dude, you alive? My mom last week. Call me when you can, honey." I called my mom first, then texted Derek and Chris, then got dressed, walked to the subway on Morse Road, ordered a sandwich, sat by the window and watched the street. A woman with a dog, a bus, snow coming down. I ate the sandwich. It was fine. I've thought about this a lot since then, and I still can't tell you definitively what Marcus was or what was happening. The coordinated trading explanation is probably the most coherent. The comment timestamps I genuinely cannot explain to my satisfaction. The name, I honestly don't know. I go back and forth. The freelancer's report is sitting in a folder on my desktop. I look at it sometimes and don't feel any closer to an answer. 4 months out now. Different apartment, closer to downtown. I enrolled in actual financial analysis courses, not because I want to trade, but because I want to understand what mechanically happened with those options prices. I want to know whether I was part of something coordinated without knowing it. I haven't found a satisfying answer yet. I rebuilt things with Derek and Chris. I talked to my mom once a week. I found a therapist and told him everything, which took most of 2 sessions. He said, "You're describing a classic addiction, just an unusual object." That was probably right, and also felt like it missed something. Addiction is the mechanism, but it doesn't explain what the thing actually was. The post is still online. I've thought about trying to get it taken down, but the deleted accounts I found, some of them must have tried to warn people in the comments, and it didn't matter. When you're inside it and it's working, warnings from outside sound like noise. I thought exactly that about the deleted accounts when I first found them. Those people just didn't understand it properly. That's the thing I keep coming back to, not the money. I got lucky with the money, and I'm aware that luck isn't skill, and what I walked away with could just as easily have been nothing. Not the isolation, though that one I'm still embarrassed about when I think about 2 months of my friends texting into a void. The thing I keep coming back to is that last section. I am a version of you, a version that already went through everything you are currently experiencing. What if that's meant literally, not as mysticism, as a description of how the thing works? Someone before me got caught up in following perfect signals, lost everything or nearly did, came out the other side, and figured out that the only way to warn people who are already in it is from the inside. That a warning from outside, "Don't trust strangers on the internet, options trading is risky," doesn't reach you when you're already there. Only something that can speak to you from inside the experience can. I don't know if that's true. It might be the most comfortable interpretation available, and I might be choosing it because it makes the whole thing mean something. Maybe. But here's what I did. I closed the account, I called my mom, I ate something. Those are the only things Marcus actually asked me to do. Everything else in that post, all the trades, all the build-up, maybe that was just the distance you have to travel before you'll actually listen. Or maybe I got incredibly lucky following a stranger's trades and then got spooked by coincidences and made up a narrative around it afterward. I've been sitting with not knowing which one it is. That's probably where I'll stay. It's 3 in the morning now. April, finally warm after a long winter. The coffee went cold without me noticing, which has become a whole thing apparently. I rewrote what I wrote. It's too long probably, but every time I tried to shorten it, I cut something that felt like it mattered.
Here's the only thing I actually want to say, and I'm going to resist the urge to dress it up into a lesson. If you find that post, and I assume it's still out there, the freelancer found 3 other versions across 3 years, it's not going anywhere. I can't tell you not to read it, I read it, but notice the part of you that stops being curious and starts being something else. That's the part you should be watching. That's all I've got. If any of this sounds familiar, not the trading part specifically, but the pattern underneath it, feel free to DM me. I don't have answers, but I can at least confirm I got out the other side.